Shanatia, everyone, and welcome to another episode on the EaglePod. Today we have a special guest, Xheni Alibashi. She is SAPS marketing lead, and she recently graduated from Michigan State University. So congratulations. So happy to have her on the pod. So how are you, Xheni?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, doing well, doing well. So, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and your Albanian background?
Yeah. So I actually was born in Greece, born and raised. But my family originates from south of Albania, a city called Korcha, for those of you that know. But yeah, I was born and raised in Greece, and I moved to the States when I was 14. So roughly like 7 to 8 years ago. And I'm based in Michigan, in Detroit, in the Detroit area. Um, So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my journey to the US.
Do you miss home? Would you go back?
I do miss home. I miss home all the time. I have been back a few times just to visit family. Um, but yes, I do miss it a lot. A lot of my family is back there. Um, so yeah. When I go back home, I just miss like sitting in my grandma's house and just doing nothing, or like having people over to come see us because we came from overseas. So everyone was like, oh, we have to go see them.
Yeah,
Just like that aspect. Or sharing food, like you said, literally just small things like that that are so hard to find here sometimes
yeah,
when you get lost in the routine.
yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like everything's better overseas. Talking about your time at Michigan State University, how were those 4 years for you? Are you happy to be graduated, or do you wish, I don't want to say you wish you were back in college, but do you just wish you'd had a little bit longer time before like actually living an adult life now because you're graduated?
I do miss it. I had a great experience at Michigan State, actually. It was like I've I always say this, it's like it was one of the greatest years of my life. I met so many people. I like living away from home for college, I think is such a different experience that I'm glad I did. Because I think it just teaches you so much about yourself and about others, and you see things from a different viewpoint. I just really, really enjoyed my time there. I don't want to say I wish I was back because I am glad to just
Yeah.
only hold that degree now, but it was definitely hard. Like a STEM degree isn't easy, as you know yourself. But it was definitely a very, like, if I could just put it in one word, I cherish all the memories from Michigan State, and I will miss it. I already do, and it's been like less than a month.
Yeah. So you did your undergrad degree in biomedical sciences with a concentration in medical microbiology.
Yes.
Um, what are you planning on doing with that degree? Do you think you're gonna have a master's, or is it more just like in the work field, get a little bit more experience before anything else?
So my intention with this degree was to concentrate it into like doing something research oriented. So like you said, I do plan on going to grad school,
Yeah.
um, but not right away. I'm working on doing research right now, so that's gonna be me for the next few years maybe.
Mhm.
But yeah, I plan on taking that experience into grad school with me. And then expanding to the doctorate level, hopefully. But we'll see. Kismet, as they say.
So, were you involved in a lot of clubs and orgs during your time at Michigan State University? Was it a big Albanian community, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say I was part of a few student orgs, but I would say coming into Michigan State, I didn't think the community here in East Lansing, the city where Michigan State is located at, is not very um, Albanian. There aren't many Albanians.
Yeah.
As like in Detroit, I was used to like everywhere you would go, I would see Albanians, and so because of that, I actually co-founded the Albanian American Student Organization at MSU. And so that's kind of how that was my first like org that I joined as a freshman. Um, and then it became through the year, it was very small. Like we would literally like email people with an Albanian sounding last name and say, hey, would you want to join? Like it was literally so much outreach to get to where we are.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I was president of that for 4 years. Um, and so that was one of like my favorite clubs there that I look back at. I've made lifelong friends, and I'm so happy to have like started that initiative. Um, but yeah, we did a lot of we did a lot of social events initially just to get everybody together.
Yeah.
Because that's how we started. I mean, we improved every year. And so we kind of started from there, and then we did some fundraising um, where we would do a fundraising project every semester. So one of our recent ones was the Xheni Alibashi Scholarship Endowment, which it was a scholarship for a dedicated to an Albanian medical student that went to the school here that passed away. And so the school opened up a scholarship in his name. And so we contributed to that, trying to make that happen, hopefully, so that an Albanian DO student gets it someday. But yeah, and then we also have, there's different chapters of that organization in Detroit. So there's about 7 Detroit schools that have an ASO chapter. And so we all contribute through various events and initiatives through that. But yeah, that was one.
Have you all had like a event where you all joined together and just held up like a big party or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we've had many. Well, annually we hold it's called the ASO Gala. And so annually every year, well the last 3 years, we've held a gala where all the proceeds from the tickets would go to a cause of our choice. And it's been various causes throughout the year. We worked with Fundja Ndryshe and Arbor Haidari. I don't know if you've heard, but we
I have.
yeah. We've helped several initiatives of his or contributed to several of his initiatives. And then it kind of started back in 2019, 2020 when that earthquake hit Albania.
Yeah.
And so the students that were in the board back then sort of took the opportunity to hold this event, and then it kind of just became a tradition. So every year we kind of did something similar for a different cause. But yeah, definitely a huge community. We definitely hold a lot of events together. Yeah, huge community here.
So, great job in like growing your org and holding all these events. And Michigan State now has an Albanian American Association. That's
It does, and it's flourishing. We started with like 10 members, I think, and now we have around 50 or 60 members total that join, and new ones every year. So that was definitely like one of the highlights of my college career, I would say. But yeah, that was also I mean, some other clubs I was in was Women in STEM. At MSU, I served in the board for a little bit, which is Women in STEM is basically an org that, I mean, it's in the name, right? It was just all women in STEM at Michigan State, from pre-meds to engineers to any any letter in STEM, just coming together doing we did a mix of social volunteering events, community engagement, we had resources for people. I mean, it was just like building a community with women in STEM. So that was also super. I've met some great girls over there that I still talk to, and yeah, super, super great. But yeah, it was definitely a club heavy 4 years.
Yeah. Well, what about Based in Science? I saw that you're currently marketing director of that. How is that? How did you find out about Based in Science, and what kind of events have you guys held?
Based in Science is, I hold it so near and dear to my heart. I think it's actually so funny. The internet is such a great place because um Based in Science, I met the founder actually, Idea Bayra, who founded this back in 2020. with the hopes of basically our mission is to spread STEM careers and education throughout the Balkans now. So it's expanded a little bit, but in the beginning, when she founded it, it was kind of more like a mentorship program. She had like a mentorship scheme going on, and would pair up these students from Kosovo with mentors in the different careers that they were interested in or fields that they were interested in. And it just kind of worked like that. And it was way more students too, because at that time, I mean, it was during COVID and everybody was quarantined. And so a lot of people were looking for something like that, especially because they didn't have that like experience through school or outdoor activities or anything like that. So
We were
yeah,
all craving social interaction during that time.
everybody. I mean, everybody. I know so many people that started things during COVID just because they were like, why not? But yeah, now it's morphed into something a bit bigger. I work with amazing people. There was such a diverse team. We have people from, so I mean, we have UK, which is where it was founded, and then we have people from the US. We had China at one point, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, so some Kosovo, obviously Albania. Yeah, so many. But yeah, I serve as the marketing director there. So yeah, it's been great. I work with great people and I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just great to be a part of these organizations, and you
Yeah.
are also marketing lead at SAPS. So I feel like you just have so much experience in various organizations, and it just helps you become a better leader at the end of the day too, because you know how to um, target certain audiences. You have that growing network, and you make connections with people, lifelong connections that can, keep flourishing and growing. And then you meet more people, and then just goes from there. And I think that's important in the professional realm. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. And now it's time for our fun fact of the day. Did you know that Albanian is one of the oldest languages in Europe, with roots dating back to ancient Illyria? Albania has two distinct dialects: the Geg dialect spoken in northern Albania and Kosovo, and the Tosk dialect spoken in southern Albania and parts of Greece. Ship, as the Albanians call it, is a unique language that is not related to any other modern language. Albanian is an independent branch of the Indo-European language family, and therefore it has no direct sister languages. And so you have experience as an undergrad research assistant. So kind of tell us the labs you were a part of and what kind of got you interested in heading that direction.
So I was really like, once I got into college and kind of like around my sophomore year, I got really interested in research. Everybody was doing research, so I was like, let me get into that. Um, so I really liked the lab and I was like, okay, I need to find a lab that kind of like translates to my goals as a person, as a professional. And then so now I work in a food safety lab. Um, and so I've been there for about a little over a year now. And so what we do there is basically it's food safety, right? So a lot of the work has to do with like microbiology. And so we will give, I've worked with different organisms like Listeria, Shigella, E. coli, all that fun stuff. And so we'll give parameters to like different companies or different packaging companies, and like how to grow those properly to prevent growth of those organisms. That's just an example. I mean, we've done various things concerning safety, but it's very, I would say, like molecular bio and microbiome heavy. So that's kind of what I'm involved in. And my goal is really to, I mean, anybody who does research, I think, is to get the experience because it's super valuable, I think, to work in a team like that. I'm very lucky. I have a very good PI and I like the people in my lab as well.
That's very important, by the way.
Very important. I really do enjoy my PI and her work is just, she's like a pioneer in her field. And I really like, I enjoy going there. I worked with some of my friends were actually in the lab as undergrads as well. So it's been very fun to work there and gain those transferable skills to transfer to really any lab I would want to work at in the future.
I just want to know, what is like the craziest thing you've learned, or like the coolest thing you've learned from being in that lab, or just like you've seen where you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know this.
Okay, there's so many, I think in microbiology, there's so many like things to wow about. Like I learned so many things through classes and things like that, but then when you're actually like, I think it's a different ball game when you're actually working in it.
Yeah.
Um, it's so like I learned so I mean from like to answer your question, I think one of the coolest things I've like seen is like different types of media and how like bacteria react to it. Like I know like for certain types of media, and this is very like particular and technical, but like there's certain types of organisms that will literally change the color of a plate
Yeah.
and make it look so like literally looking at that, I was like, oh wow, like that's really cool. Like that's like a public health like metric and how it impacts us. Like I think microbiology is so cool. I could talk about microbiology all day. Um, but
Why don't you educate us for a little bit? Give us a little like elementary style microbiology course right now.
do you want your views to go down on this podcast? You want me to just ramble on?
What's wrong with educating people?
Um,
A girl in STEM talking about microbiology, I mean, could inspire other girls to do the same thing.
you're right. Okay, well maybe I'll just sacrifice myself. So, um, there's so basically, like I work with listeria a lot. And Listeria is an organism that it grows very fast in a lot of foods, and it's very easy to grow. Not grows very fast; it's easy to grow in things like watermelon. I've worked with like apples. I worked on a project with like apples. And what we did is I worked under a PhD who this was her like PhD thesis. And her main like objective was basically to understand. So you know how there's like apple wax on
Yeah.
apples, like it's really shiny. And that's commonly like looked down upon because it's like, oh, you're putting wax in your body, especially with the food in America, like how it's so, which that's another topic I can ramble about. But it's very, you know, there's a certain reason sometimes why that's there. And so we were looking at whether because the claim, right, is that that protects certain things. It acts like a barrier and it protects certain things, certain organisms from getting into the apples, and like ultimately harming people, and causing listeria outbreaks. So what we were testing was we used two different types of waxes that are or two different types of waxes, four, sorry, that are very commonly used. Um, and we put listeria on it. So we tested how the listeria would grow on them. And it was without the wax, on the different types of wax. And so we kind of took obviously temperature into consideration. So you'll usually do like room temperature or like then you'll go in colder temperatures because there's different bacteria that will grow on certain temperatures better or faster. So that's something that needs to be taken into account when you're talking about food safety. Um, but yeah, that was like an example of a project I've worked on. Um, I worked on it for a few months. And one of the coolest things, like I mentioned before, like you're streaking these plates
Yeah.
to see, you know, with listeria. And we grew it we used several media with antibiotics in it. And so the antibiotic with the bacteria had a reaction and it would literally turn the plate black. And you would
Oh,
see the
wow.
little, like, dots in the plate.
How long would that take?
We did it for 48 hours of
Okay.
incubation. Sometimes you can see results in 24, but usually best is like around 48 hours for listeria to grow. But yeah, it was super, super cool. And then obviously do those plate counts and see like how significant they are, to see how many like colonies grow on the plate. Super fun when you have like 1,000 colonies in one plate and you have to count all of them.
I remember I did a lab in biology with that. I don't know what the bacteria we used was, but I remember it's a gross thing to look at.
I enjoy it. It's so fun to me. Like when people say, like, obviously, I mean, we like in the lab, like there's so much PPE that you have to wear in a microbiology lab. We're a BSL too.
Mhm.
Um,
What does that mean?
so that's just right. Okay.
Yeah.
So levels to safety in the lab. And so there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for 1, it's normally just a teaching lab with no like pathogens that could cause like disease, or be fatal. And it moves up. So 2 is just a little bit more dangerous. It's as to like it would be something that if you were to touch or breathe in or be around, it would cause potential infection, that you would need to be treated for. So yeah, I work in a BSL too. And it's I mean, we're very strict about like what we touch, when we wear gloves, when we wash our hands, wearing masks and things like that. But yeah, I love working in micro.
Yeah. Sounds exciting.
But
I feel like
there's so many more things that I would like to like explore than just micro, that I like sometimes I think I'm like, maybe I'm just limiting myself because I love micro so much. Like there's so many more things
yeah, you
that
could always explore and then go back to micro.
right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to not be like closed-minded when it comes to that. Like public health and micro are super interesting, obviously, like epidemiology, all of that. But I'm also interested in like nutrition and molecular bio, cell bio, and how, how all those different things interact in disease and preventing disease, preventative measures for certain diseases that are very prominent in this country.
I feel like it's kind of underrated though, for
What
the
is,
amount of people, like just public health as a degree.
I
You
think, I think is very underpaid.
know?
Like
Yeah.
masters in public health or even a doctorate, honestly. I think public health professionals are it's like kind of like teachers, like how we always say that teachers are very underpaid, which is very valid. But I think public health professionals are so underpaid. Whether you work a corporate job in public health or whether you work in like a lab or whatever it is, you're an epidemiologist. I think it's like we're not valued enough, especially, during COVID. I mean, we were literally like the professionals were like doing the research, working front end, as were many other healthcare professionals, obviously, but yeah. And just things like that. Like if I were to use an example of what role like what health would do in like like a public health crisis would be like COVID. Like that's a great example.
Yeah.
We saw a disease, we didn't know about it, we researched it, new things came out every day about it.
Yeah.
There was a vaccine a few months after, that was developed. There was doubts about that, which again, another topic of discussion, but yeah, like I mean, public health is important, especially in this country. And I think people also, public health is not just like epidemiology and infectious disease. It's so much more than that. Public health has a lot to do with like an aspect I'm interested in public health is also like preventative disease and things like cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Those are all public health issues in this country. I mean, they're the top causes of death in the US. And we're still,
And it can be prevented.
it can be 100%.
Yeah.
And, we live in this world of like Western medicine where everything is like, put a Band-Aid on it. And it's not, and it's not really like well thought out in other ways. Like the food you put in your body or the place that you live in, your socioeconomic status, which plays a huge role. Like it's literally, I think I heard this in some podcast, I'm sure. It was like 9 out of 10 lead causes of death in the US can be prevented through through like the food we eat.
Diet, exercise. Yeah.
Like that's huge.
That's crazy. It's like our whole system is just, it's just difficult to get at. It's like our culture is built like this. Because as we were talking about, I guess we were talking about it another day. We weren't talking about it on this podcast, but we're talking about like the importance of like eating healthy and how you said your story about like every time you go to Europe in Albania or whatever, and you just find yourself, what was it you said? You find yourself eating a lot of like,
I just feel better. I eat anything I want and I just feel better. I don't feel, I mean, you lose like 10 pounds every time I go back home in Albania. Like Europe is like instant. I step in the airport, immediate 10 pounds off. I just feel so light. I feel like I could like go on a mile run, like
yeah,
crazy like environment. And a lot of it, I mean, obviously like it might be different. Like obviously in America, I think life is so like routine based. Like everybody's like,
fast-paced.
go. Yes. Like even if you get like getting coffee is like such a different experience. Like in Albania, like back home, it's a social experience. You sit down with your friends and your family and you have your morning coffee and you socialize. Well, as here, you go to a Starbucks drive-through and you headed to work at 7 a.m., 9 a.m. Like it's not taken, it's like everything is so different. And I think it also like induces stress when you're always on the go, go, go. And don't get me wrong, like I love a routine. I'm very like type A and thrive on routines, but I think at times it can get very like stress inducing because you're in this life where like you have to meal prep and you have to like in order you have to go out of your way to be
Very
healthy.
intentional with it. Yeah.
Right. Which is like crazy because then you have people, obviously like lower income people, they can't afford these organic foods and these like gym memberships.
I'd
Or
rather just go to McDonald's, pay $1, how much it is for a
yeah.
sandwich. Chick-fil-A, you guys don't have Chick-fil-A in Michigan, do you?
True.
You do? Oh,
We love Chick-fil-A over here.
oh, okay. So like the Chick-fil-A, their morning breakfast sandwiches or whatever, like, do you even read the ingredients on that? It's you're starting out your day with some sort of soft beverage and fast foods. There's like a greasy sandwich or hash browns or whatever they have on the menu like that.
Back home, you don't have to read out the ingredients because like probably something that like there's no like concept of organic. Like what's organic? Like if it grew on the ground, it's organic. What do you mean? Like
Yeah.
why is the tomato like I tell my dad all the time this. Like I can't like I smell a tomato and I'm like I can't, it doesn't smell like anything. It's like plastic. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like anything. So my dad, like, as I'm sure is like very common within
Yeah.
Albania, we have like my dad grew his own garden and we have all of our veggies that we get there
Yeah.
in season. So
Do that too.
he was like tired of it. He's like, what? Like what?
Yeah. Don't you just love going out there and just picking your own food and being
I
like,
do.
let's make a tomato, cucumber, onion salad or whatever, that typical.
Right. Every time I go home and it's like during the summer, I'll go back in the garden. My dad's like, you need anything? Like groceries, go in the backyard.
Yeah.
Well, my veggies are supplied by my family.
Yeah. That's so nice.
It's about being proactive. I think that proactive is super huge when it comes to these things. And like, don't get me wrong, America is a great country and I love it here. Whoever's listening to this. um,
Yeah.
but I think there's definitely some flaws in the system and you're not gonna be, my dad has a saying, everything perfect is not gonna be in one place. My dad says this all the time. And I think America is like the perfect example of that. Like you have so many great things. for like, education, career wise. I mean, that's why most of us moved here, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also like these things that you have to look at and consider, that I think as Albanians, we kind of, what's the word? We don't appreciate when we have them. And then you come here and you're like, oh, wait.
Who would you say has been your biggest role model to date? It could be just like family, friend, or someone famous. It's kind of inspired you.
I feel like I mean, I've had so many mentors throughout my life and throughout my educational career that I think it's so hard at
Yeah.
times to like pick one, but um like mentors, I don't know. I have so many. I feel like obviously like a lot of my professors, they've been great mentors. People like I don't know if this is weird, but like people I've worked for, like my bosses, for different jobs I've held, they've been great mentors to me, just like life mentors. Um, I mean, if I had to pick one, like right now would probably be the PI I work for. She's a great mentor to me in several aspects, and I really, really appreciate her. Um, and then obviously like my family, if we're talking like a little bit more sentimental, but yeah, I have great, great mentors and a great network that I rely on at all times.
What advice would you give to college students or just any student? I guess it could be people that are trying to, like high school students that don't really know what direction to go in during their undergrad. I know there's a lot of people who just struggle to choose a major and stick with it until they graduate. So kind of just what advice would you give to them?
I think that's a great question because it can be very subjective.
Yeah.
But I feel like if there's one piece of advice would be to not to take the risk. Like take the risk. I think there's like a phrase somewhere. It's like get on the rocket ship or something and then just do like just agree on it. Um, I think it's so important like as students like during your college experience to take risks. And I learned that the hard way, because I think like in any aspect, not just whether it is about like taking a class, taking a job, to whatever it may be. Um, if you're confused I mean, at 18 years old, you're not going to know everything. I didn't. I'm sure you didn't. Nobody does. Um, and I think, it's hard to like, because you're literally, I mean, when you pick your major, that's a huge life decision, especially if it's like, I think anything STEM related, obviously like pre-meds, like that's a huge step that you have to take because it's so like delayed gratification that you're sitting there sometimes being like, okay, well, why is all of this like what's the end goal? Like you're always just thinking. And I think I think that, you know, because like it's okay to switch your major.
Yeah.
It's
Not the
okay
end of
to,
the world.
yeah, and it's okay for your like end goal to change sometimes. We morph into the people that we become the people that are around us. And I think it's important that throughout that time, you need to pay very close attention to who you have around you. Um, like your support system, whether that's your friends, you know, whatever that may be, like your circle needs to be very well thought out because it's very important. Like ultimately, those are the people that will shape you, their thoughts and their discussions, the discussions that you have with them, whatever that may be, that's what will shape you. And so, you know, I think you need to think really wisely about that. And also just like have some fun in college too. Like, I think for a lot of us Albanian girls, especially, it's very like, you're not allowed to go away to college for some people, or you're not allowed to do this or that, or um, I don't know what, like going out or going on, like, I don't know, traveling or trying something new. I think
All
um,
the Albanian girls out there know exactly what you're talking about.
like, come on, I think it's so important to do that during your college experience. It shouldn't just be about, you studying or you learning and working, like, yeah, that's the goal and that's why you're there. But I mean, if you look back 4 years after and you say, well, what did I do? Oh, I submitted an assignment on time. Well, that's great. But, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah, I
Don't
think
put your life on hold.
yeah, don't put your life, exactly. Don't put your life on hold just to get a degree.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the goal and that's important, and you need to kind of keep your eyes on that. But don't like live your life and have fun along the way.
That's great. All right. Now on to our rapid fire round, Jane, where I'm gonna ask you 5 questions or actually let's do 10 today. Let's do 10. 10 questions and you have to quickly answer them.
Okay.
Or if you want to like start a discussion off of them, I'm happy to do so too if you have certain opinions you want to get out there. So, first question. What is your favorite Albanian dessert?
Oh, dessert.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. Oh my gosh. I like petula. I think petula are great. They're
Paytals
easy.
a dessert?
Yeah. Oh, well,
Is
I
it
eat it. I eat like the sweet
kind of like
kind.
a
I
donut
guess I see it as a dessert.
fried dough?
Like I
Okay.
don't eat the kind with like cheese and I eat
Oh,
mine.
put honey on yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that weird?
No, it's not. I've tried it with honey. But I prefer it with feta.
I like it with feta
More
too, I guess.
savory.
Or like with sugar. Like, have you ever done the thing where you just dip it in sugar?
Yes,
And
I've done that too.
oh,
Yeah.
gee. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I like surtiash.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Surtiash is great. There's so many. I mean, I don't like syrupy does it like baklava and stuff like that. Or tolumba. I hate tolumba. Um,
I love baklava.
I don't know. I'll eat like a piece for New Year's, but I don't like choose it
Oh,
if I have like
that's my
options.
go-to. What else do we have? What other desserts do we have in our culture? I feel like we don't.
There's I mean like
What
a
is
like
our like main dish? Main
main
dessert.
dish, like
Yeah,
main.
main dessert and it's tres leche, right?
Okay, but I don't think that's Albanian. I think it's uh,
Spanish. Isn't it
just
Spanish?
serve that a lot, but
Oh,
I like trileche though. That's like top five, I think. It's so simple, but it's so good.
yeah. All right. And then since we're talking about food, if you are cooking for only yourself, what is your favorite dish to make? What would you make?
Pasta, any type of pasta. I love every kind under the sun. I don't discriminate. White sauce, red sauce, no sauce, veggie.
Just give Janie pasta and she'll be happy.
That is like my favorite thing to make for people, to make for myself. Like I love pasta. There's so many variations. Like when people ask you like what's your like if you could eat your last like meal on earth, what would it be? Mine would be pasta.
All right, 2 things you could never leave the house without, excluding your phone. I feel like the phone is like the first thing, but
I could never leave my house without like probably my car keys. Um and like a hair tie or like a hair claw clips of some sort because I never know wherever I'm gonna be, I always end up having to.
you know mine,
What's yours?
my sunglasses.
Oh,
Time
right,
clock,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your most valuable possession?
Um, I don't know. I'm not very materialistic. Valuable, like money wise.
It could be something like your grandma or your mom gave you, something memorable.
Oh, that's cute. I didn't think of that. I
Like your
have,
Albanian eagle necklace, maybe that.
right. Okay. Yeah, that too. But I would say like prized possessions are like pictures for me. Like I love like looking back at like printed pictures from back, like way back when.
Photo album.
Yeah, like photo albums with like my grandparents and like pictures of them in their lifetimes or my parents or pictures from like vacations, just looking back on stuff. I always like treasure pictures and memories. We have like a whole bag in my house with just
That's what we put them in bags.
albums.
We don't even have albums.
And one day when you're like spring cleaning, you come across,
Yeah.
oh, what's this? And then the whole family
Yes. Do we all live the same life?
together.
That literally happens like every year.
Yeah, every year. Oh my gosh, ours happens like once a month at least.
All right. What is your song? Like
My
when
song.
you hear this is like, this is my song. This is Xheni's song. What would your friends say, I guess?
I don't know, what would my friends say? Um, there, okay. There's a lot, like there's a lot of songs that I listen to like any and every genre under the sun, but maybe like something I've been obsessed with lately is I've been listening to a lot, I should say, is like Stolen Dance from Milky Chance. Um, Red Prezreni is always on blast in my car.
Okay.
I know all the lyrics. Fun fact. Um, but yeah, Cheap Thrills is definitely just songs that get you like going,
Excited,
like
hyped
like
up.
summer's here type of
Yeah.
beat, right?
Yeah. All right. What is one rule you live by?
Like if you can't help somebody, don't hinder them in any way. Like just let people be and just be in your own
Bubble.
lane
Yeah.
and focus on your own, not in your own bubble, but just 'cause then I feel like that gets like, oh, but
Oh, like me.
yeah, but in your own like lane, but definitely,
Stay in your lane.
do their thing, yeah, and then you do yours, and let's have everyone thrive.
I agree. It's a good one. And then if you could watch one movie for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Oh my gosh, probably My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I love that movie.
I am obsessed.
I love that movie so much, just because I feel like
We've
we're.
watched that more than 20 times.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I kid you not.
And it's something you can watch with your parents too, which I
Yeah.
feel like is funny because like watching a movie with your parents is like with your Albanian parents who speak
Yeah.
broken English, it's like a different experience. But yeah, one of the many. And then Marvel movies. I love Marvel movies. Any Marvel movie, like Avengers. I love those movies.
Last question.
Mm.
What is your favorite Albanian phrase?
My favorite Albanian phrase. Um, hmm. These are the questions you should have sent me.
I know. Honestly, these just are just popping up right now.
Favorite Albanian phrase? What's it called? Like, të gjitha nuk blidhen në një vend
Okay.
or something. Like, all the good things are not going to be in one place. But I can't talk about that. Yeah. I feel like Kismet is like,
Yeah,
what
it's
is
a good one.
Kismet? It's like, I don't think anybody knows what that.
Yeah, or like mashallah.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that even Albanian though? I could
No.
debatable.
Like, what is it? Like, how many countries use that? Like, so many. Oh, the Ottoman occupation. I love that so much.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Xheni, for being on the pod. Love talking to you, and I love how we had this discussion about just science and it's just so educational, life, everything. And I feel like that was just an amazing
Yeah.
to talk to you and like talk about this stuff. So
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the space. And if you'll allow me, I just want to say that I'm super grateful to be invited to this podcast and kudos to you for making this happen. I think there's a lot of like podcasts out there or like platforms for Albanian Americans to speak about their success and speak about their journeys and for us to listen and reflect on them. But I think it's so much more important when it comes from an Albanian American woman who's first generation and is in her own journey, and you're doing so many things in the background for yourself that you're working on, and you took the initiative to also do this. So I think it's super, super great, and it's amazing work with you through SAPS
Yeah.
and seeing your work in this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate all the kind words. It means so much to me. And yeah, I think this is what we were missing in our community too. Just trying to bring everyone together and having different perspectives. And I am open to having literally anyone on the pod who has like who's successful in their own field, who has a story to tell, who's done something important, which I'd like to, shine a light on these people and give them a platform to like put themselves out there and show the world who they are and what they're doing and all the successes they've done. So yeah, I appreciate you being here.
We found a gap and we filled it.
Yes, for sure.